Hello YouTube, how's it going? Welcome to another video here on the channel. Remember to like, sub, and share. I'm trying to reach 1,000 to get this channel monetized. Any small bit helps. So, esports. Esports is one of the biggest draws for any type of capitalist. But it's also an extremely risky venture. For the most part, esports is there to lose money. It is a net loss. Like, it's near impossible to get a positive on esports. And I know that it seems like a harebrained thing to say this despite how big gaming is, but if you actually look into the numbers of esports, it is a losing proposition. Most of these esports events make back their money through skins and other cosmetics. They're there to promote the game. Unfortunately, it's just not going that way, and that's because gaming is a radically different landscape than sports. I know for gamers that seems like, yeah, well, duh, but for people who are getting into esports, like we've seen the controversy with FaZe Clan, and I'll get a bit into this. I actually have personal experience when I worked for a TV company trying to get into esports, but right here, Activision admits concerns over the Call of Duty League and Overwatch leagues. So this comes from Insider Gaming. Uh, Activision has admitted that the company has concerns over the longevity of both the Call of Duty League and Overwatch League. The net comes from via Activision's latest SEC filing. Our collaborative arrangements for our professional esports league, i.e. the Overwatch League and Call of Duty League, continue to face high winds, which are negatively impacting the operations and potentially the longevity of the leagues under the current business model. We continue to work to address these challenges, which could result in significant loss, and such efforts may prove unsuccessful. Now, I would say the biggest issue is that they dived right into esports in hopes that it will just, make money right off the start. If you remember when the Overwatch League started, when Overwatch launched back in 2016, and then eventually I think it was 2017 when they started the Overwatch League, I was working at this television company. Again, I'll get into that later. It was huge. A lot of people, I saw people at Grand Central Station, people at Atlantic City Barclays Center, all wearing like Overwatch League jerseys and everything. It was a huge event. But since then, it's basically just fallen. Like, a lot of people just watch esports leagues when they're really into the game, but now Overwatch has died down. The hype is gone. Yeah, it's still a popular game, but not to the same degree as when it once was back in 2016, 2017. I would say that's the height of the Overwatch IP. Now it's basically cratered for a lot of people. Yeah, you still have a lot of popular people like Flats, I believe his name is, who still make Overwatch content and do exceptionally good content and are very popular. But for the most part, the common person just doesn't really care about Overwatch. They've moved on to other things. From the get-go, one of the major issues both leagues faced was the league slots, with Overwatch teams had to pay $20 million, whereas Call of Duty teams had to pay $25 million in addition to the high price to take part. Both Call of Duty and Overwatch have been struggling to grow viewership in recent years. Yeah, because gamers move on to the latest trend every single time. Like, Among Us is actually one great example of this. It was incredibly popular and now it fell into a crater. Yeah, it's still played by some people, but for the most part, Among Us reached its popularity and people move on. Gamers move on to the next popular thing very quickly. It's new game syndrome. Like, the second something new comes out, they're really into it. Like, before it was Jedi Survivor and Redfall. Yeah, those games were critically panned for their horrible performance in the case of Redfall, for being a bare mediocre game. But now everyone's talking about Tears of the Kingdom, and I guaranteed after about 4 weeks, no one's going to be talking about that. They're going to be talking about it, but not to the same degree as they once were. Gamers move on very quickly in the world. Both Call of Duty managed and Overwatch managed to have decent 2022, with it managing its highest concurrent views in 2022 at 439,000, whereas Overwatch peaked at 397,000. I mean, that's good numbers, but considering what they're trying to pull in, it's not. Meanwhile, games like League of Legends, CSGO, Valorant, and Dota continue to bring in millions of views during major championships. And you have to remember, CSGO and Dota are owned by Valve, so they literally don't have to pay for advertisement at all. They literally own Steam. They just have to put that game on their front page, say, hey, we're discounting CSGO, and when CSGO 2 comes out for 99 cents, oh, guess what? It's free now. You want it for free? Here you go. They can do that. Yeah. It's unclear where Activision will take its Call of Duty and Overwatch leagues in the future, but concerns over longevity speaks volumes. What do you think of the Call of Duty League and Overwatch League? Let us know below. Now, I think that Likely they're going to downsize it because we know Activision Blizzard are big sticklers when it comes to financial performance. They've been notorious for firing employees in order to boost their fiscal reports. And I don't see this happening. I see this happening again. Now, one of the biggest esports leagues is actually run by Moist Critical and Ludwig, and you can see here, straight from the horse's mouth. I'm just saying that as a word, a phrase, but here it is. Oh wait, I don't think I put on desktop. There we go.
About Moist Esports, but I run it at a massive net loss. I don't want to get too deep into the nitty gritty here, too deep into the weeds and the brass tacks, but I lose roughly 6 figures a month on it, and it's fine because right now my entire Twitch paycheck goes into Moist Esports in order to.
So that's, imagine losing 6 figures a month on this, and he co-owns it with Ludwig. And the thing is, Activision Blizzard is a multi-billion-dollar company. I think they're a multi-billion, but they're definitely above a billion-dollar company. And they even sign with these leagues cost of over $20 million. Not to mention, like, the players themselves who have to train endlessly in order to compete in this. Now, let me get into the story about when I worked for a TV company. Now, this was back in 2017. I don't give a fuck what they think anymore. They still owe me 4 weeks back pay for the 6 weeks I was there. But basically, these were people who used to work for things like the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and they invited me. And they trained me, and they asked me, hey, you know a lot about gaming and esports. I was like, yeah. So they hired me through word of mouth, through a friend of mine, a colleague. And when I was there, they did not listen to me. They wanted this really stupid plan, and I will say it was genuinely stupid, and I didn't say that to their face. I tried to guide them in the right path, but they were like, oh, we're going to get a bunch of esports players together, and they're going to compete in a variety of games for a prize, and that's how we're going to run things. I'm like, that's not going to work. Like, no esports player worth their salt will ever do that. They'll be like, just because they're good at CSGO or Overwatch, they're not going to play Street Fighter 5. Those are completely different games. Like, I tried to explain to them that games are not like physical sporting events. The NBA, basketball, hockey, a lot of these sports, tennis, whatever, they haven't changed a lot. Like, I'm certain people who are experts in the field can say, yeah, some things have changed here and there, but when you get a touchdown in football, it's still worth 6 points. Like, that hasn't changed. That's been the same way for the last 20 years, at least since I've been alive. Whereas a game like Overwatch, almost every month, the game changes in some way. Characters are buffed, some are debuffed. Changes are made every single time. Sometimes the MP40 in Call of Duty sucks now. Sometimes it's good. I'm just picking random things. Like, they constantly have to be training and adapting to different things. Just because they're in the same franchise, for example, Call of Duty Vanguard and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, doesn't mean they're the same game. They're radically different games in terms of meta and how they perform in different structures you have to compose your team in. And they just wouldn't listen to me. Till eventually the show I was running on literally went bunk. They literally just, the person who was running it said it's just not making enough because they wouldn't listen. And I feel like the executives of Activision Blizzard also seen this. They're seeing that you can't put as much money into this because it's just not going to perform well. And again, when you go to esports itself, like, yeah, there's a huge grand event, but this comes from Ludwig, and he actually made a really good point, I think, that really sums out what it's like to go to these events.
I was rooting for T1 to win. For fake to my best fan. And instantly was Deft pilled. I wanted Deft to win, sitting at the front row of
Here it is.
real tattooing for T1 to win.
This
for
is it.
Faker to get his 4th, and for Deft to fail on his final dance. Now the games start, and our view for the $50,000 event was a little bit worse than sitting at the front row of a movie theater. The tickets that I paid $50,000 for, the box with 12 seats that I brought all my friends out to watch, were perfect seats if we were watching people play basketball, because the players would be about 12 feet away from us, and I'd be able to see somebody like, Steph Curry in 4K in front of my eyes. But it turns out that the ability to see Faker, who was sitting right here, and his hands move on the mouse don't really fucking help understand what's happening in the goddamn video game.
I'm not going to play the rest, but basically he does go into it. Like, they basically went into their skybox or whatever, their private room, and just watched it on the TV screen. And that's the thing, like, I tried to convey to them. Like, again, you go to a sporting event, you see, like I've been to WWE events, and you literally want to see the athletes. You want to be there to see them. But when you go to an esports event, it's really not the same. Like, you have a better experience at home watching it on TV, especially with new modern technology where you can switch between people's screens, see their mouse movement. It's much more easier. And that's where I think that esports is collapsing now because of people who wanted to get into it, seeing that it's probably a huge moneymaker, not realizing what gaming is actually about. That games change, that you can't just go into this, put money into it, and then assume you're going to make money. Like, it's Activision Blizzard. I'm sure they had people who knew about games, but eventually you have to see the writing on the wall. Yes, League of Legends, CSGO, those companies do pull in millions upon millions, but at the same time, you can't compare the two in the sense that, like, one is a free-to-play game, one is not. That also plays a huge role. The other thing is that League of Legends, CSGO, like a lot of the games that this article refers to have been out for a very long time. Like, these games have been out, like, I would say 4+ years. I'm probably wrong about that. Valorant, I'm definitely wrong about this, but I would say good 4+ years. So all the skins, all the cosmetics, all the microtransactions you purchased, they're still there. But with Call of Duty, whatever cosmetics you purchased from Call of Duty Vanguard that's specific to Call of Duty Vanguard, you're not getting it in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You're not. Like, all the purchases you make, it's like Madden or FIFA. Like, all those purchases you make are not going to transfer to the next game. I don't know why people keep buying those games. Well, it's more because they have a monopoly on that stuff, which leads to my next thing. Sporting events have a monopoly. Like, there's only one NBA, MLB, hockey league. I'm sure there are others around the world, but for the most part in the United States, you can't go anywhere else. Like, where are you going to get, like, official NBA games from the NBA? Like, if you don't like Call of Duty, there are several other first-person shooters you can play competitively. Same thing for, yeah, League of Legends, Valorant, all these games. But at the core is that it's also who's playing. Like, there's an array of factors I'm trying to argue. It's, like, so much that I just can't put it all out there. But I see that the esports sphere is going to change radically. More people are getting out of it. More people just don't see the viability of it. And I'm seeing that venture capitalists are just saying, like, it's just not even worth investing into anymore. Unless you're like Moist Critical, who can afford those losses because he literally is a multimillionaire and he has a partner who's also a multimillionaire. And they're single people. Like, in single people in the way that they are just like one individual. They're not a multi-billion-dollar company. Of course, when you rise up the ranks, that thing, it's all about presentation. When you're Activision Blizzard, you have to show off your, like, how wealthy you are and how your league is so prominent and everything. When you're Moist Esports, I don't really expect that from Charlie. Like, if he just wanted to do, like, literally something like this behind me, which he does at his, like, literal office, everyone's going to be like, yeah, we like it. We're okay with this because we expect this from him, and we acknowledge that. But with Activision Blizzard, you want a big stage. You want something like what Ludwig was seeing here with the League of Legends area. You want something like this, and this is not cheap. So, yeah. That's how I see it. I really think that esports is going to lead to a massive collapse. The good thing with a massive collapse is that you can rebuild from the ashes of what has fallen, and maybe people will do better in the future and realize that esports is meant to lose money, not make money, and it's meant to push a game, not meant to push the event itself. But that's just me. I'm not a huge expert on this. I've just seen the writing on the wall multiple times. I've seen this happen so many times, like with the the DayZ incidents, and also with Overwatch and Call of Duty we've seen right here. So tell me what you think in the comments below. I honestly think that this is just going to continue to lose money until we have a system in place that maybe has a balance where you can meet a net zero. I think the best case scenario is you meet a net zero where profit and expenses just meet in the middle. But that's just me. Tell me what you think in the comments below about the future of esports. I've said my opinion, probably very jumbled up, but, you know, it is what it is. This is me signing out. Remember to like, sub, and subscribe. About 95% of you aren't subbed, which is fine, but helps along. Goodbye.